Coming up on today's edition of the Art Marketing Podcast, a Greek warship, a horse named Sally, and the Mother's Day sale you're about to run. Specifically, call back to episode 10, Nothing New Under the Sun. It wasn't episode 10. Why did I even write that down? Where are these notes? Remember the Nothing New Under the Sun? I promised you a refreshed anatomy of a sale. This is the anatomy of the sale episode. 2 messages today primarily. How to properly run sale actually works. How does one work? The anatomy. And also why omnichannel marketing is the key to marketing today, 30 years ago, 25 years from now, omnichannel marketing the key. And I promise by the end of this episode, you will know exactly how to run your Mother's Day, your Father's Day, your spring break, your welcome to summer kickoff, Memorial Day / insert name of sale here. So I want to start with my thesis, which is all oars in. And I think we all intuitively know this, but like attention is just fleeting in 2026. You almost never get a human's full attention. Not your wife, not your significant other, not your partner, not your kids, not your moms, no one's. I feel like attention span sometimes is 2 seconds in today's day and age. You know, sometimes a subject line, you get somebody's attention with just a subject line for a second, or sometimes a caption scroll by, or sometimes maybe they'll see an image on a carousel or a story frame or a hello bar announcement bar on your website. And all of those impressions, despite the fact that maybe they see the subject line but don't click your email, or they quickly thumb scrolled by your post, or they glanced at an image you post somewhere but just kept moving, whatever it is, you know, subconsciously those things barely get registered, but they do get registered. And that's the reality. That's the runway we're working with in 2016. That is the nature of attention. You know, it's really, really hard to get. And I think it's why I'm on this all oars in thing. It's why you need to understand this stitched together game, this omni-channel marketing game, right? We're not attempting to write an essay for someone to read front and back. Okay. That is not how you win in today's day and age, like it or love it. Okay. You know, you think about your own behavior. Like, how much of you guys actually completely read the news versus just scanning all of the headlines and the subheadlines? I would almost argue that like the majority of news consumption in today's day and age has shifted as a result of a lot of things. You know, no one really reads newspapers anymore. You're awesome if you still do. That's old school. But what do? We check a web page or we look on our phone. And most of the time, given this world that we're in now, you're just scanning headlines and subheadlines. And that's how you're getting informed, right? And it's why this notion of omni-channel marketing needs to be so established, right? You're not writing an essay anymore. You're not writing this heavy, dense, thick piece. They still have their place, but that's not how we get attention in the world that we live in. You're assembling 15 tiny little flashes of attention into a message that lands in aggregate, right? That lands in aggregate. This is what I'm building to, this notion of omni-channel marketing. And, you know, a lot of times like artists, photographers, creatives will pour 2 hours into an email. No one opens. Ignore all of the other things and go, I spent a ton of time on my marketing. I don't know why it didn't work, right? You know, you've got an oar in the water, which is great. You're just not rowing, right? So I use this, you know, the Greek trireme metaphor, right? Like think to Troy, think to any Greek mythology, the big Greek ships, 2 rows of oarsmen, or I should say 2 sides of the boat, oars in the water, right? I think it was usually like 3 rows. I think the ancient Greek warships had like 150, 170 oarsmen, something like that. 3 rows of oars. I think it was all there. But the notion is those Greek boats were really, really fast because when all oars were in sync, the same stroke, the same direction, the velocity, the power, the boats would just fly back then. And if you started getting oars out of sync when that was happening, the boat would just sort of spin in place. And so I think thinking about your marketing like that trireme, like that Greek ship, and I always have like the Brad Pitt, Troy movie in my mind because it's the last one that I saw, you know, where they're rowing the boats to Troy and they're going to storm it onto the beach. Orlando Bloom just stole Helen of Troy from the Trojans. Is that how it went? No, from the Macedonians, I think. Whatever. It's beside the point. Think of those boats like that, right? It's less about like your marketing message and how many pieces you have, and it's whether all of those oars are pulling at the same stroke. Like omnichannel marketing is not a tactic. It is the definition of effective marketing. Okay. It is the timeless principle of how you get all of those oars rowing in a row, how you get your message in as many places as you can, right? In 30 years ago, this would have been, or 40 years ago, maybe now 50, would have been catalogs and radio and newspaper and department store displays. Same message, different surface back then. Today, it's all about email and Instagram and Facebook and TikTok and SMS and on your website and on the messaging platforms and everywhere else. Different surface, exact same way to go about it. 25 years from now, I'm sure it will be the same rules, but the surfaces will once again change. It'll be the helmets that we're wearing or the virtual reality goggles or Lord knows what else. I don't even want to think about it. But to go back to the last episode, there is nothing new under the sun. The rules are the rules. It might be attention spans are a little bit shorter these days than they were, 25, 30 years ago. But the reality is it's all about having your message consistently in as many different places as you can at the same time. And those are just, the rules, right? And so I think the sort of life skill reframe that we all need for this, it's like it isn't art marketing. It isn't marketing your creations. It isn't me marketing my software or trying to push whatever I'm trying to push, this podcast. It's just the craft of promotion. It's just promotional craft. It could apply to a bake sale, a garage sale, a gallery opening, a fundraiser, your kids' GoFundMe, your HOA election. It's the same rules. It's just the same rules. It's audience plus incentive plus scarcity, right? As many coordinated services as you can apply that on. And I've said this on the podcast a bunch going back, right? Like discounts plus scarcity, is essentially what underpins every single solitary sale, right? But I like this notion of audience, whatever your audience is, incentive, reason for them to take action, scarcity, it's going to end across all the surfaces that you have, right? That is sort of this notion of like promotional craft. And you're not learning just how to sell art when you do this. You are learning how to make humans pay attention to something specific by a specific deadline. That's what it is, and that's a powerful thing to say. You are learning to make, I wrote this down, you're learning how to make humans pay attention to something specific by a specific deadline. That is a life skill. That is going to pay you back for all the rest of the time that you have on this earth, no matter what you are doing, because we all have situations in our lives where we need to get attention, where we want humans to take action, whatever the case may be, right? And so most artists, I would say, they think they only have 3 oars and they row 3 oars, right? You don't own 3 oars, you own 20 plus, okay? We got to inventory the surfaces you already own and probably aren't using, right? What do most creatives think they have? Oh, I've got an email list and, I've got some personal friends on Facebook and maybe a couple Instagram followers or whatever the case may be. We have to zoom out and we have to realize like truly how many surfaces, how many outlets, how many venues that we actually have, okay? And you guys are a wide and diverse bunch. So for illustrative purposes, I'm going to throw out some ideas here for you, okay? And for some of you, you might not have all of these surfaces, and some of you might have all of them, and some of them you might have ones that I don't even know about yet. But it's thinking creatively about all of the ways that you can do this, right? And remember, life skill. It's not just about selling your art. We all have a vested interest in getting better at understanding how to do this whole thing. So let's talk about the owned surfaces, okay, that you have. Let's say you've got a website. You've got the website itself. You've got its website copy. You've got the email pop-up on the website. You have the announcement bar, which is like that little bar at top or bottom. Our websites have that, so I'm using that as an example. You should have them. They're very effective. You've got everything on the website, right? You've got your email subject lines. You've got the preview text, the body text, the PS, the footer signature, okay? You've got order confirmation and shipping confirmation emails, transactional emails. A great many of you have snail mail lists. You've got Instagram, right? And that's partly correct. You don't just have Instagram. You have Instagram and Instagram stories. You have Instagram and Instagram image posts. You have Instagram carousel posts. You have Instagram reels. You have Instagram lives, which I taught all of you to do and none of you ever do, but I wish you would. You've got personal emails to friends asking for a share of your promotion. You've got the community bulletin board at your whatever, your community pool, your local college, your job site, whatever. You've got that. The magnet you put on the side of your car, yard signs that you ram into the ground around town, right? A sign you leave hanging over the 405 freeway overpass. All of us have these various different surfaces in our life that are unique to us, unique to our town, unique to our culture, unique to where we live, right? But in most cases, what I've pretty much always found is that you always have more of them at your disposal than you think you do. Okay, than you think you do. And in the social services, I mean, there are so many different social services, right? Like, with most artists, it's Instagram, it's Facebook, it's TikTok, it's Threads, X, it's YouTube, it's Pinterest, it's Blue Sky, right? Like whatever you're on, there's a ton of services there. Most people get it. In some cases, there's paid services. Some of you guys are running ads on Facebook, running ads on Instagram, running ads on LinkedIn. I didn't even mention LinkedIn. LinkedIn's a good one too. So we all have all of these surfaces, right? And of course, there's the analog ones too that, I mentioned things from yard signs to handwritten cards to tags on packaging to QR codes to postcards that you're sending to folks to your license plate frame, right? Like the notion of effective marketing is just like doing an honest audit and really seriously thinking about all of the various different surfaces, whether they're in the digital world or in the real world, that you have available to you. Okay. And I realize where most of you go, because you're going to hear all that and you're like, Patrick, I can't even get a marketing message done in the 3 oars that you rightly accused me of thinking I have. Now you're telling me I've got 20 oars and I've got to come up with a marketing message for all of that. This is legit where AI is a huge unlock. I'm not trying to sell you on AI, but here's the truth. You write one nice comprehensive brief about what your sale is, the AI can write all of this for you, and everything just needs to be assembled and put in the various different boxes, right? Something that would have taken 2 afternoons 5 years ago, you can legitimately get done in 10 minutes worth of work and 30 minutes of editing. I'll put a prompt in the show notes, okay? But I want to talk about this. I want to talk about the anatomy of a properly run sale. And I think I've convinced you, or I think I at least have your attention, that you have the vested interest in learning this, right? Mother's Day is coming up. So I'm talking about Mother's Day. Mother's Day is a great art selling holiday, but it doesn't matter what the it is. This is just learning the anatomy of a properly run sale. I don't care if you sell real estate on the side or what your day job is in any capacity. Oftentimes, there are opportunities where you need to get human beings' attention, and that's why these skills are just so insanely valuable, right? So let's talk at a high level about the anatomy of a properly run sale, okay? Properly run sale. First, let's clear the air. A sale is a closing tactic, okay? It is not devaluing your work. It is not going to make you seem schmarmy or spammy or some sort of a salesy artist, right? If you're in this whole, like, the discounting my art cheapens my brand, you are playing the wrong game, right? You are not thinking about it correctly. People who already want to buy need to take action now. That's all a sale is. And I always use these disclaimers because I feel like it's such like a misnomer in the art industry that running a sale somehow makes you feel desperate or look desperate or seem, cheesy or salesy or scummy or any of that old nonsense. And it's like, it is so far from the truth. More art is sold at a discount than full price the entire industry wide. Okay. It's all just a game. The more expensive that you get in pieces, like the ones that sell in galleries and high-end galleries, every one of those pieces at the top end, these people get ground down all the time. I talk to so many different gallery owners. Anyway, don't worry about that part. The sales equation, let's talk about that. A equals incentive, okay? And the incentive is just the incentive, okay? The incentive is just the reason to take action now. And by all means, you can do you, right? 25% off, free shipping, BOGO, buy one, get one free, hand signed, right? Hand signed, including a free whatever. I will come to your house and wash your car. Just give me some sort of incentive to take action, okay? Some sort of incentive to take action. Scarcity is the deadline. So A is incentive, B is the scarcity, okay? And I'm just going to call this equation today the A plus B times C. The A plus B times C. A, incentive, right? B, the scarcity, the deadline. It's got to be finite. It's got to be real. It's got to be enforced, because without it, the maths just say human beings don't take action. They just don't. Oh, it's a beautiful piece of art. Oh, are you interested in it? Wonderful. Well, don't worry about it. I got it. We can talk about it whenever you're ready. No worries. No. That thing's got to go. It needs the scarcity, okay? And attention, C, is just this omni-channel push that we've been talking about. This getting all the inventory done of all the surfaces that you have and getting all those oars in our Greek trireme, rowing in the direction to go rescue Helen, right? So remove the emotion from your business, you guys. This whole thing is just maths. You're going to be doing this for the rest of your art selling lives, okay? And the more that you do this, the better you're going to get, the more money you're going to make. You're going to realize your goals as creatives, which is being able to fund the lifestyle that you have aspirationally for your dreams. That's just it, which is why we got to do it, right? And the scarcity is absolutely everything, the deadline, right? Like water, cutting Yosemite Valley, like one of the most beautiful places on earth, over 10 million years. That's the power of scarcity. You know, do not mess with the scarcity piece. No deadline equals no action, okay? Incentive, scarcity times attention, right? Incentive plus scarcity times attention. That little core, okay, at the anatomy of a properly run sale is by far one of the most important things that you can do. It's just math. Human beings will be more likely to take action, okay, to achieve the objective that you want to when you have that at play. And it's like it's almost like a programming language, or it is programming, or psychological programming. So anyway, the next most important piece, okay, and this is where a great many creatives stumble, get caught up, right? And there's a lot of reasons for this, right? One, most creatives hate marketing. They don't want to do marketing. It's the number one thing that gets procrastinated on. It's the thing that starts at the top of the to-do list and then is on the never gets done list, right? It's not just the equation. It's working backwards from when the sale is supposed to launch, right? Like at best, you could say there should be a 3 to 4 week calendar on this. I could argue that it's a 3 to 4 month calendar in some cases, right? And you know, this is where this notion of jab, right hook. Gary Vaynerchuk, one of the greatest social media marketers, he's got a great book. It's old. You could still read it. It's called Jab, Right Hook. But it's this notion of you can't be out there right hooking all day long. Meaning you can't be out there just asking for a sale. If you really want to do well, you have to give playful content and introduce people to who you are and talk about your process and be a human being, right? And not just make it about your art. And you do all of that to have the audacity to be able to ask for a sale. And I think that's a really great way of thinking about it, of framing it, of going down the anatomy of an individual sale, right? So I want to just sort of highlight this, lay this out a little bit, and then I'll get into a little bit more details. But let's just say phase one. And we're still going to just sit here conceptually about how this all goes, right? So phase one is the warm up, right? So in our 3 to 4 week calendar, you could say that this is weeks 3 and 2. And this is where you're doing the aforementioned jabbing and not the right hook, right? You're filling up the goodwill piggy bank. You're filling up your engagement battery from previous non-salesy content, right? Funny posts. This is where your memes come in. This is where you're being playful. This is where you're doing your live broadcast. Just kidding. None of you like doing live broadcasts, but this is where you're just sharing awesome content. You're not trying to get people to take action. You're introducing people to who you are. You're showing a little vulnerability. You're being a real human being. We're finding out who you are, right? Then we get into the launch day. Okay. We get into the launch day. It's staggered blasts, okay, across all channels, okay? Email, then Facebook, then Instagram, and then Instagram stories, and then TikTok and Pinterest and whatever you have, text messages, Messenger, DMs, all of it, right? same imagery, same message, platform, tune, voice. Okay. Then you get into mid-sale, which is the sale week, daily. You can't go quiet. You can't just announce it and then end it. You've got to be active and in the trenches and posting content and talking about it and resending emails to unopens. You've got to keep the story going. You have to keep your headlines being heard, being mentioned, dovetailing together with one another in the various different venues, right? Phase 4, 24 hours left, the panic push, as I like to call it. Deadline on the subject. All channels again, ends in 24 hours. It's almost over. Phase 5, you can extend the sale. I think you should always extend the sale. It's the rule, right? It's a great way to do it. You don't always have to do it, but it's great to do it. You extend, because when you extend the sale one little bit, that's where all the fence sitters are like, shoot, I lost my opportunity. You know what? I'm going to go for it. All the last minute procrastinators, which is 100% me. Then you've got phase 6, post-sale follow-up, right? These are the people that abandon the cart. These are the thank you sequences. This is when you send shipping confirmations with personality, when you go for upsells, when you ask if anyone needs anything else, right? And you could argue that that's it. So we warn people up. We have the launch day. We have everything that we do during the middle of the sale. We have when it comes down to 24 hours left. We have the extension. Okay, we extend it. And we have the post-sale follow-up activities, right? And really, that's a very, very simple way to think about a sale. In the warm-up, make sure that we're sharing cool stuff and we're showing who we are. We're being real humans. Launch all the channels all at once, staggered throughout the day, hammering them, middle of the sale, where a great many people get tripped up because they just announce it and then they end it and then nothing in between. All the different creative ways that you can continue to dovetail on the sale, and we'll get into this in just a second. Very, very important, right? 24 hours left, that last bit of important scarcity, that's really going to get them to take action. The extension, again, I would say if there's anything in these 6 phases, the extension is the one. You don't have to use it every time, but I've had phenomenal results in my career using it. Phenomenal. So the extension, and then at the end is the post-sale follow-up, which is just really you communicating with your buyers and trying to get some additional revenue out of them, trying to raise your AOV, your average order value. Okay? Very, very important. Here's the crazy part about this whole thing, though. And I would almost call it like the alchemy of a sale. We're talking about the anatomy of a sale, the alchemy of a sale. It's kind of like cooking, you guys. Like every step is an ingredient in the final dish, and maybe you can pull one of them. Okay. You forgot the Parmesan cheese, and the Parmesan cheese is just not going to make it into the dish. Okay. That might not kill the dish. Let's be honest. That's probably going to kill the dish. Maybe it's the pepper. That might not kill the dish, but it hurts. If you pull one of the ingredients out of the dish dies. It's never going to be as good as it could be. Right? Sometimes all the action is in the first email. Sometimes all the action is in the last. Sometimes it's the combination. But you don't ever get to decide what steps matter. And in most cases, it's very, very difficult to even measure which steps matter. And that's something that no one ever talks about. Like, oh, Patrick, we live in this digital world where, we have all these analytics and we have UTM tracking parameters and we have all kinds of stats and everything. Even in today's day and age, people start on their phone, then they go to their computer, then they're on their wife's phone, and then they're on a VPN, and then they forgot all of that, and on their work computer was when they came to buy. Unless you are asking people, and by the way, even when you ask people, like this is like one of my biggest conundrums in life. Like I have instructed the sales staff at Art Storefronts to ask for like 10 years, hey, how'd you hear about Art Storefronts? Hey, what made you call today? In most cases, they're like, you know what? I don't even remember. I think I saw something somewhere. Maybe it was a social media post or an email. It's alchemy, you guys. It is absolutely alchemy that usually gets them over the line. Now, under no circumstances am I not suggesting that you as artists and photographers, when you get an order, say, can I just ask you, what about my marketing moved you? Or how'd you discover me? Or what is it that drove you to purchase today? I'm just really curious. And then shut up and let them tell the story. Always do that. But you'll find more often than not that they don't even know what it was. Oh, sure, they remember whatever the last thing that maybe brought them in, but it was just the alchemy of all these messages. And sometimes they just saw a subject line, and sometimes they were scrolling at 1,000,000 miles an hour, and they passed your post, but it got stuck in their head, or they remembered the color, or they remembered the subject matter, or maybe you did a funny reel, or maybe you posted a meme, or your animal, or your significant other doing something funny, or some crazy thing your kid said. Like, all of those things just psychologically get stuck in there. Those are the things. That's when all the oars are just rowing, right? Like, which guy is pulling the hardest on the oars? You don't know. You don't know by looking. It's the attribution. Excuse me. The attribution in today's day and age is just really, really hard, and that's okay, right? It's just important to know that it's alchemy, right? All of these things are important, and even if you truncate them down, and you can only do a little bit in phase 1 warm up, and you can only do a little bit in phase 2 launch day, and you can only do a little bit in phase 3 mid sale, and you can only do a little bit in phase 4, 24 hours left, and you're not going to extend, and you can only do a little post sale follow up. Those things all matter. Those are the things that set the creatives apart from the ones whose businesses are growing year over year and acquiring new customers and developing new relationships and eventually having collectors, versus the ones that don't. Thinking like you can just phone it in and skip this whole process, right? Like, I really, really, really want to impress upon all of you guys how valuable learning this skill is. Like, it will apply to so many other areas of your life. The ROI of spending the time to figure out how to get human attention, to figure out how to get human attention to take action, A plus B times C, incentive plus scarcity times, I do that right? Yeah. Incentive plus scarcity times the attention, right? The services that you have. Like, it is so valuable to learn. And you start small, and then you just keep getting better and better and better and better and better and better and better. Part 4, I want to talk a little bit about the humor, the memes layer that you guys are all now experts on. It's been really fun, by the way, seeing you guys tagging me and sharing all the memes. And, some of you are hilarious too, because it's like, I tell you, you can't just share art. And you hear me and you're like, okay, cool. Memes. I'm going to do some memes. I think it'll be kind of fun. And then you do some variety of, you actually make a meme. It's actually really funny. You posted it on social because your batteries are so drained. You barely got any interaction. You're like, okay, that was fun. I'm going to move on. Or better still, memes. This is really fun. This is actually a way that culture communicates. This can sway hearts and minds and move public opinion. I'm going to try it. And then what do you do instead of doing a meme? You just do it with your work, and then you throw text on the top. I love you guys. I love you guys. And in some instances that can work, especially if it's really, really funny. But this notion of memes, this notion of humor, okay, this notion of being a self-deprecating, right? Like, I've been pounding this into you guys, and I really do feel like it's making an impact, because I've got a ton of you guys in our community, and I'm like seeing the interactions, and it's why I'm like on this track where I'm really trying to build all these podcast episodes and like get this into your guys' heads, because I think it'll absolutely work. Like, you just have to keep being encouraged to do it, right? And you already know you can't be one-dimensional on social media. You can't be one-dimensional in your marketing. You can't just post your art. You can't just post your photography. We need to know who you are. I've been redundant on this, and I'm not going to stop, right? And you now know that memes and the entertaining stuff and the non-art stuff and your pet stuff and the funny stuff and making fun of people and being self-deprecating and being vulnerable is what charges up that engagement battery, right? If assuming you've been doing that, and most of you, I've seen a ton of you do it, you just need to do more of it. But if you've charged up that engagement battery, this is the episode where all of that finally pays off, right? Humor, like the humor, the self-deprecating, the fun stuff, the lighthearted stuff, the entertaining stuff, it's not a sidetrack. It's the warm-up that makes the sale push convert, okay? Your funny content should make your sale content make more sense, not distract from it, not distract from it. With the battery charged up, okay, the sales push, it rings into cold air, or I should say, without the battery charged up. With the battery charged up, people are going to actually see it, okay? And if you take seriously this multiple surfaces and hit everyone you can, it's going to do fantastic, okay? And I really do think, like, for me, self-deprecation, I mean, anyone who listens to this podcast knows, like, a little self-deprecation, okay, in addition to your memes, in addition to the humor, it just works. Okay, it is such an unlock. And I feel like a lot of times artists, photographers, creatives resist humor because I think it undermines their serious artistic brand, right? You know, it's like the same objection as like discounting devalues my work, right? In both cases, I just think it's the wrong frame. Self-deprecation is a trust builder. It makes you a person, right? It makes you a person and not a brand, right? And you know, like it's so easy to insert a little bit. And some of you guys are naturally hilarious because I see some of your posts. And some of you are like, I don't know how to do. Spent 6 hours on this painting. Cat sat on it. Mixed media now, $800. Things like that, right? Like simple lines. My studio is a war zone. 2 weeks before a sale. Here's the chaos. See what I did there, by the way? Teasing the sale. Here's the chaos. Raised my prices. Nobody told me I was allowed to. Here's why. Right? And I'm just throwing out random teasing little lines, right? But for your warm-up content, yes, memes. Yes, you guys being human. Yes, self-deprecation, right? All of those things are really, really important. They're very, very important, right? And if you guys just did some more of it, if you just did some more of it ahead of running the sale, if you just did some more of it ahead of running the sale, and you understood the A plus B times C, every one of you would do significantly better in the sale. But it's a process, right? It's a process. I want to give you an example because I know I'm sort of speaking high level conceptually, and it's much easier to drill into it, right? And what did I put the title? I made a really funny title. Oh yeah, Greek Warship. A horse named Sally in the Mother's Day sale. I was just looking at one of my friends' work that's heavily involved in horses. Shout out to Carol. She's like the wild horses left in the United States. So I thought about it I don't know, I got the Mustang Sally in my head. I must have heard Ride Sally Ride. I must have heard it. So let me give you some example of what this sounds like, okay? What this looks like, how it all comes together, okay? How it all comes together. So let's say you're a horse photographer, okay? That's who you are. Your incentive is going to be 25% off. Your deadline is going to be Mother's Day at midnight. Your 4 best sellers are a Clydesdale, I love those horses, a thoroughbred, and a Mustang that we're going to call Sally, right? Because that's what Wilson Pickett did. So same message, same imagery, platform-tuned language, okay? And I had to write these down so that it would all make sense, right? But just going to give you an example and roll through, because I think when you tie all of this together, you sort of feel the magic of what omnichannel marketing is, what having your message in all these different venues potentially looks like, right? Email, galloping into Mother's Day with my biggest sale ever, 25% off, best sellers pictured, deadline Sunday. Facebook, giddy up, my biggest sale of the year is on, 25% off store wide, just like Mustang Sally here, Sally ride. The Instagram feed post, Lipton's on her horse, looking majestic. Similar language, a little bit tighter copy because it's Instagram, right? For the Instagram story, flip through all 4 breeds. Same deadline repeated on the very last carousel slide. For your reel or your TikTok, a 15-second pan across the 4 photos with some meme text overlay, right? For your SMS, I know most of you don't send SMS, but let's just say you did. Mom's Day sale, Sally's 25% off, ends Sunday, link, right? Let's say you're using Messenger, you're using Instagram DM to your super fans. Hey, you might have already seen this. My biggest sale of the year. Don't want you to miss Sally, right? On the hello bar on your website, the announcement bar, Mother's Day sale, 25% off store wide, ends Sunday at midnight. It's not outside the realm of possibility that every one of those touch points I might see, okay, if I'm following you. If I'm engaged, I might see the email and ignore the email. I might see the Facebook and ignore the Facebook. I might see the Instagram, ignore the Instagram. I might see the story, pause on it for a second and go, wow, Carol's having a sale. I just saw it in 4 different things. And then my wife would yell at me and I got busy and I got bored. And then I would go back to the email. I would click and I would come in and check it out because you just hit me. You peppered me in all of these various different venues, all with the exact same message. And all of this applies to every aspect of the sale, right? To all the aspects of the sale, to the warm up, to the launch date. It's like less important for the warm up, but for the warm up, for the launch date, for the mid sale, for the 24 hours left, for the extension, and for the post sale follow up. You try to get your message in as many of those different venues in as many different creative ways as possible. And yes, AI can help you write all of those, right? You just have to come up with the initial. And I think where things go so terribly off the rails for most is, one, people use the same language, the same imagery, consistency, all channels at once. You got to mix it up a little bit, like I did in the copy and told you what images I would be doing. And then just the aggregate effect, right? Exactly like I explained it. Like what happens in the real world is they ignore the email, but they see the subject line. They see you on Instagram. They're like, that's interesting. They go back to the email. They see another email. They ignore that. They go back to Instagram or to Facebook or to TikTok or to Pinterest or wherever they are. They see that. They ignore that. Then finally, at the very last day, they're like, oh, I don't know why I'm interested in horses all of a sudden, but it's just been so effectively pounded into my head subconsciously that I don't want to miss this, right? And the power of the omni-channel marketing and the fact that most creatives do it is why the creatives run a sale and they say sales don't work. I don't even know why I'm doing this. It's just not working out for me, right? You have to do all of these things. It is all part of the alchemy of the entire thing, right? You know, if you only send one email, you're going to get 10% or none of the results. If you skip a bunch of these things, if you leave out a bunch of these ingredients, you lost the alchemy, you ruin the dish, right? If you think that your art doesn't fit Mother's Day or it doesn't fit Memorial Day or it doesn't fit Father's Day, I've told you already, it's just about the wallets being out during those times, right? People are already in the buying mode. So that is why we ship these things at those venues, right? Like at that time, because the wallets are just out. And if you start super, super late, I still think starting super, super late and running a truncated version of this would be more effective than not doing anything at all, because you get reps, you get sets, you get practice. But when you get this whole thing all humming, all firing, all cylinders at once, it just works, right? And it's not something that you can leave off. It's not something that you can ignore. You're going to be using this skill, okay, for the rest of your life. You just will, right? And I know like the number one pushback I get is I hate being salesy. I hate running sales. The reality is, you guys, no one sees it. Almost no one sees it. That's like the premise I operate off all the time. Like, I'm not worried. You know, the perfect example that I use Gray Malin. Do you guys know who Gray Malin is? Gray Malin is like the drone photographer. He started out as a drone photographer. Now I guess he's just like a famous photographer. He, you know, had those famous original photos of like Positano and all these other beaches. And, you know, I became famous for that. He was like one of the first guys to that. He has a seriously mature sales operation. And all you have to do is go to his website, Google him after I get off this, and go get on his email list and put the email on a filter so that it doesn't overwhelm your inbox. Art Storefronts already does that, don't worry. Look at the sheer volume of sales that guy runs. That guy runs a sale once, maybe a couple of weeks, like every other email is sale email, sale email, sale email, sale email. And I think he does conservatively $5 to $10 million worth of hard sales a year. He's got a huge team running his entire operation. And what does Gray Malin understand? Why am I bringing this all up as I close this thing out? Because nobody sees your message, right? No one's really worried about Gray Malin running sales all the time because they're not interested in Gray Malin most of the time. They're not even reading those emails most of the time. They're not even looking at them. They're not even aware that he's a thing. Then when they do become interested in Gray Malin, what are they greeted with? They're greeted with a sale. They're greeted with A plus B times C. Incentive, scarcity across all the services, right? Like a lot of winning in a sale is just having something with that equation in the water when that person is interested in your art, right? That's it. That's literally it. And every time you run one of these, it's like training for the next 40 years. You know, it doesn't matter. Mother's Day, gallery opening, bake sale, your kid's dance recital, Kickstarter, class reunion, HOA election. Same rules, same muscle, same craft. You're not learning art marking. You're learning a promotional craft, and I think it'll serve you down the line, down the years, and whatever it is that you do. So the rules are the rules. Nothing new under the sun. Okay. Pick your 4 best pieces. Okay. Your 4 favorite. Write 1 tight sales paragraph, 60 to 80 words, deadline. Okay. Put it through your favorite AI. I'm going to give you a prompt. It will help you generate the rest of the assets. And then try to run through the 3 to 4 week calendar. Okay. You do this, you're going to start getting results. You do this, you will likely fail miserably the first couple of times. But you'll be like, that wasn't that hard. I was able to get that in the water. I think I could do that again. This really works, you guys. The rules are the rules. There is nothing new under the sun. All oars in, all the same direction. Happy selling. And we'll be talking about this more in future episodes as we get into this season that we're in now, from Mother's Day to Father's Day to Memorial Day to the summer sale to 4th of July and everything else that we have coming. So exciting stuff. Get going on all of it. I'll put some exciting stuff too for you in the show notes, including that prompt. I'll put all the language that I used on the Mustang Sally thing. And let's go, you guys. Giddy up. Mother's Day is coming. All the rest of the holidays are after. Thanks for listening. And as always, have a great day.